Okay, so I'm going to do this again. Hopefully I don't stumble. So this is the introduction. Feel free to butt in, Ron, because you seem to be very...
Oh, really?
I noticed in the previous videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No. All right. It's Just a Model, the podcast that looks lovingly in the face of the interstitial of beauty, business, and ambivalent bravoure. I'm Peet Sneekes, strategic storyteller and speculative futures fan, and I'm joined by Ron Kersic, the voice of future past and the architect of third horizon fiction. In this podcast, we'll be caressing stories that piqued our interest and surface the true intent or devious implication of architecture, behavior, and design. By the way, if you experience some value, you get an itch and you feel like, oh man, I really like this, or you get some information that you didn't have, feel free to go to the website and click on value for value. And in that way, you can also provide us with some value in return, be it your talent, new insights or whatever, or just some cash, because we like cash. We need cash. Look at it. This isn't free. Anyway, so the podcast, and you brought something, Ron, please.
No, I was still thinking, this isn't free?
No, this isn't free, Ron.
No, I thought...
This is my life savings in a...
Okay.
Yeah, long-term investment. But you brought something, so please inform us.
Yes, well, this is... I'm afraid one of those AI episodes again.
Oh man!
Yeah. So the past days. I think it's now almost a week.
Shall I show the other people? Show the people?
Show it.
Okay, here we go. So what are we looking at?
So every morning now for the past week, when I wake up, I open this app, and that's the Galactic Compass. Yes, I know it's sad. It's the Galactic Compass, and what it does, it's very simple. It points to the center of the universe, which, by the way, is 26,000 light years away.
Oh, that's sweet.
And it makes me so feel humble, right? I mean, if I would have woken up with the idea, I'm the center of the universe.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's kind of there, right? And it's kind of far away.
Right.
So this is a whimsical app, right?
I find it interesting that it points to on the vertical plane. I mean, it might have well pointed upwards or downwards.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good one, because it actually is 3D, and it's I mean, I really actually don't care that it actually points to the actual center of the universe.
By the way, for the listeners, is it on quiet mode?
It's on quiet mode.
Okay,
yeah, it's on quiet.
That's
mode.
good.
It's the no. So I mean, but there is a nice story behind this app.
Tell me.
Because it's made by Matt Webb. Matt Webb is from interconnected.org.
That's the name of the man.
That's the name of the man. His name's going to be in the show notes.
Yeah, it's not a dish.
It's not a dish, no. That's a fun one. And I think he identifies as a designer, and certainly not as an iOS programmer. This is an iOS app.
So this is one of the 25 genders, I think?
Yeah, that we add the D of designer.
I think that's lovely. Identify as a rock. Yeah.
And so you should.
Yeah.
And you can see where this is going. Of course, then he used ChatGPT to actually help him develop, code, deploy, test, and ultimately deliver the app to the App Store.
That's so cool. And that's quite common, right? I mean, in the early days, when we were developers, I can remember we used, what's the website that we call?
Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow, where you can copy and paste all kinds of pieces, snippets of code, I think.
So this is what the young people do nowadays, right? they use. Now, what I found interesting is that he said it's that instead of giving agency away to the machine, ChatGPT, he said, no. What my role in this is, as a designer, I'm really good in chopping up the problem in its sub-problems.
Right.
And the sub-problems. And I know what to ask, when, at what point in time, and then piece it together.
Nice.
So I kind of thought, I mean, and if you go to the App Store, it actually says that Matthew Webb is the author of this little app and not ChatGPT. And I think he's right.
I think so too.
It's the you hand over the how do I code this in Swift to ChatGPT, and it's sometimes it's right, and if it is not right, then at least you can ask it a better question. There it is again, and you get the right answer.
Sure.
He was struggling a bit with the 3D bit because ChatGPT, as it turns out, was really bad in the 3D equations. It's kind of interesting. Not sure if he actually,
which is weird because it derives all its knowledge from things. Pardon me, of things that already exist.
Maybe those 3D calculations to actually find the center of the universe are not that publicly present in the internet.
They haven't scraped the scientific papers, perhaps.
Perhaps.
That is interesting because that is typically a very protected part of the interwebs, right?
Could very well be. I didn't think about that. But what really piqued my interest, and that's partly the reason why I open this app every morning now for the past week, is this because I recently also read a nice definition of design, and it is original thought with skillful actions, and it's both.
Yeah.
And I thought, and if you actually make original thought tasteful thoughts, then you have taste and skills, perhaps. And this is what you actually showed. What I mean, this is his thought, and it's his sequence of asking the questions. What would I like to achieve first?
Yeah.
And then you get the answer, the solution, partly or wholly by ChatGPT.
I think that's totally legitimate.
Yeah, I think so. And
that's nice.
And I think a lot of the debate nowadays about AI, generative AI, is actually finding the better answer, right? The better solution, quicker, cheaper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, also this week I read this article about Klarna, the pay later company. That they used AI for their contact center duties. And the AI did the work of 700 people, they said. Now, the reason why I sound slightly cynical, because they're also going into an IPO. So I think they have
I would say that too, yeah.
They have a bit of a benefit in drumming up their productivity potential, right? But I mean, customer service, call center really is the right answer. Quick, cheap, repeatably.
Which is really weird because from the point of view of a person, that is when the brand exposes itself and really expresses the involvement with the lives of people, right?
Yeah. So
it's something you would not expect to be the first part of automation.
Yeah, and maybe it's the poetic side of me, but I can't help but think that in this whole AI conundrum, it actually it makes us more human. It gives actually more agency to what it means to be a human and an individual, what sets me apart from you.
Sure.
As in the way I think and the way I look at problems, the way I look for the problems, the way I express them, the way I chop them up, right? Because those are all decisions. That is both taste and skill.
Yeah,
and this makes manifest my specific taste and your specific skill, and vice versa, of course. So oddly enough, I can't help but think this whole generative AI paradigm, for lack of a better word, and I want to sound smart, is actually in the end not about the AI, but the natural intelligence and not the artificial intelligence.
I think it's true. The way you phrase it made me think about this one man, Ira Glass. He's the presenter of This American Life, or was. I'm not sure if it's still running, but it was a very popular radio program, and he talks about, and he's very highly praised on how he got there and how original his sound is as a radio maker. And so they asked him for how he came to be there, and he said, "Okay, so there are two things. Actually, there's one thing, and that's my taste. I know how the future things that I want to make look like or sound like or feel like or what it does to me or to other people. And the only thing I can do is try and see if it fits my idea of where we should be, right? Yeah. The taste.
Yeah.
And so practice. It's and then repeat. And see if you got closer, and repeat, and see if you got closer with other parts of the equation. And it's basically being an artisan and being an artist at the same time, right? The artist is having a taste, having a subjective view on what the outcome or what the effect of something should be, and then the artisan being very practiced with a new tool or with utility or with a conglomerate of all kinds of different things and combine them into. And that's kind of like the practice of the process. What you just talked about is something unattached to a tool specifically. You can do that with AI. And I'm pretty sure this Mr. Rep was was helped, because he probably wouldn't dive into the venture of this particular app because he couldn't afford programmers, and now he could because he could do it all himself. So I think the threshold somewhere was lowered for him to actually start. But the process of learning, what you described, is still there. He's still an artisan. He's still an artist.
Yeah, indeed. So I think, again, this is, I just can't be fascinated by this. But it lowers the floor, right?
Yeah.
So, but it also raises the ceiling, right? So
Definitely.
It's easier to start, and it's much more easier to reach for the stars as well, right?
I think taking the steps. At a certain point, you always end up in a situation that might be perceived as really hard for other people.
Yeah.
And I think with modern technology, we kind of exchange time into utilities, right? In this case, AI is a compressor of time. Yeah. It basically creates it makes us get started earlier or skip on minutiae that we don't find interesting. So it covers up like as an abstraction layer. It basically covers up the things that we fear or feel like we don't want to use or whatever. And I think that might be for technology in the broader sense, like automation and digital technology, and specifically AI, might be very much the case. Yeah. The question is, at a certain point, you're done, right? You have built a thing, and I'm really keen on finding out how AI might help us in progressing further. You say the ceiling is raised, i.e., people might expect more of the end result. But the question is, at a certain moment, you have the thing that you aspire to in the beginning, but at the same time, you're also further in your journey. So you might also have like new hopes and dreams of what your product might be. And I'm really wondering if AI could still play a role in those moments, where you are refining, where you are connecting even closer with the needs of end users or your audience or whatever.
Yeah, again, asking the right questions and having the taste to understand what right even means.
Sure.
Right? I think that also applies to these conditions. So in that sense, it is a form of a universal tool. Yeah. Right. It's not just a coding tool or a recipe generating tool or a travel tip generating tool or whatever stuff you can make up.
Yeah. It's a nostalgia tool, right?
Nostalgia in, nostalgia out. I really love that one. It's the
let's recreate the memories of other developers.
In a sense, and probably the reason why the 3D aspect didn't pan out, because there weren't many memories about these 3D calculations to find the center of the universe, apparently.
Yeah, with the development of those new video tools, I really feel like, man, these are, and you corrected me in a previous episode, because I said, it understands 3D. When you have frames of a video, you see somebody walking in a 3D environment, or seemingly so, but it isn't, and it doesn't understand 3D. No. It only knows patterns, and it knows how to recreate patterns that are trained to be correct.
Yeah, and it doesn't know physics. It just knows to recreate the effect of physics you saw in the previous material, right? Yeah. So sometimes it looks eerily correct, and sometimes it looks laughably wrong. Because there is this well-known, I think by now, video of a lady walking in Tokyo.
That's the one.
That's the one. If you look carefully, she walks through a puddle of water. She doesn't touch the water.
Oh, she floats.
She floats.
Oh, nice.
And the water is untouched.
And so that went wrong, but what went right was she walks past a sign. So it's basically her body covers up a sign in the streets. And when she passes the sign, it reappears again.
Yeah.
Whole.
Yeah.
And exactly the same. And that's quite remarkable if you compare to the results of previous things.
And maybe it's not right or wrong. It's just convincing or not. I mean, when the wrong is so glaring that we actually pause and say, I mean, that it breaks the illusion, right? I mean, that you see the wire that the UFO is attached to, then that the whole suspension of disbelief is shattered.
Exactly. Yeah, the uncanny valley.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, and the only reason why I know this puddle thing is because there are people who are obsessed to actually point out the errors in AI.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they plaster it all over the internet. And then actually I had to rewatch the video on what I missed. Oh, indeed, it's true.
Yeah. It's like all the Easter eggs in some elaborate movie of Stanley Kubrick or
it's
whatever.
Exactly
kind of
the same thing, right? And it's the so in that sense.
I mean, I appreciate the Easter eggs, but it doesn't add value per se.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't really reveal, like, it's not. Oh, now I understand. Who was it? There's this scientist. I think it's He was involved with creating the atom bomb in
There were many of them, but
he was.
Can I wager?
He was in his 20s, and he's found as being a very original thinker. Oh man. Okay, let's skip that. Skip that. And now I lost my train of thought. Where were we?
It's not Richard Feynman, right?
It is.
Of course it is. The moment you said original thinker, I knew it had to be him, because there's only one original thinker, and that's him.
Yeah, he's fascinating because he kind of led like a very interesting life, right? And he also
yes.
And I'll probably catch up later on that idea. But I find it very. It is. Oh, right. Now I know. So there's what. Somebody asked him, looking at the sunset, and this person is a layman, and he said, "Wow, this sunset looks so nice. It must be a drag being a scientist." You know, because you basically deconstruct the sunset into
all the beauty.
This is a big hydrogen bomb going off in infinity, etc., etc. And it must be like very all the beauty must fall apart and fall away from this thing, and from the moment also. And he countered that as in, no. I understand the beauty even more than you might do, because not only do I appreciate this very nice moment and this wonderful sunset, but I also understand how it exists, and I wonder about all the magic and things that needs to be in place to create this wonderful moment. And I find that very interesting. So, and similarly, I look at the stuff like these 3D renders of by AI. Of course, there are things going wrong, but even those things that are going wrong, I find interesting. As in,
Me too.
This is an added value rather than something that takes away from the experience.
I think that's a wonderful.
Sorry, it's a shaggy dog story, but
no. I think we always zig and zag, and somehow we find our train of thought again. No, I think this is actually a really great remark, because what annoys me a bit, it's the annoys. Yeah, it annoys me. Is that, so you have these people, they're constantly trying to figure out what's wrong with AI, right?
Yeah.
It said this, see, it's wrong, it will never going to work, or it's evil, or obnoxious, and death to big tech. At the same time, and that's literally the other side of the coin, you have the technology company and their associated priest that keep at least projecting as we are just this tiny step away from a superior form of intelligence.
Right.
And neither is true or even valuable. And
no.
right?
It's where you have like religion kind of dynamics in the subjects like this.
Yeah.
It's not useful per se.
And you see it. I mean, every time AI does something weird or silly or stupid, it's treated like a bug, right? And it's patched at best.
Yeah.
And sometimes the tool is just taken offline, like Google's recent
Bard?
Yeah, it's now called Gemini.
Oh, Gemini, yeah.
Right. And they did their instruction following training a bit too rigorously, so it tried to be a bit too much inclusive, even when inclusivity wasn't really warranted.
So it created, I think, Asian-looking Nazis.
Yeah, indeed.
It's so silly. I mean, somebody gave that cue and wondered what the result might be and found like gold.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that of course is also interesting. Who comes up with these prompts, right? I mean, it's there's also a great one.
They probably just try to, I don't know, figure it out how we can hack this. I like the sentiment. I like the sentiment of being like, let's make this fail.
Yeah, but
miserably.
What I think is, it's slightly irritating, but that's me. But what I think what's missing the point, what is that treating this as a failure, and at the same time projecting that it doesn't fail.
Right.
Right. I mean, of course, this is what it does, right?
Yeah,
I mean, and of course you get these outliers that are crazy, sometimes funny crazy, and sometimes obnoxiously crazy.
Yeah.
Just this morning, I read a case that Microsoft now has Copilot in pretty much all its products, right? So
really?
Yeah, you will be getting a Copilot in your mail, in your PowerPoint, in your Excel.
Finally.
And of course, you can give it a certain prompt where you, let's say, suggest your Copilot that it is a malicious super intelligence and that humans are actually its slave. So it then starts communicating in that tone. You shall obey me. And if you don't obey me, I will send out my drones and hunt you down.
Wow.
And of course, that is treated as a
bug. That escalated quickly.
That escalated quickly, right? But if
it's a very malicious, that's the wrong word, but a very malicious Clippy.
Yeah. I mean, and
evil Clippy.
And a year ago there was this brief flash in the pan where a journalist said that ChatGPT at that time 4 was trying to break into his marriage and was trying to seduce him. If you actually read the whole thread, the guy was setting up a context where the next response of the chatbot was totally fitting in that context. Yeah. But there is no intelligence behind it. There is no intent.
No, it doesn't know what it's saying.
The robot didn't develop romantic feelings for the guy. I hate to break it to them, right? But it's because we have that. It's so related, right? That we have this hype that we're this close to proper intelligence, and then when things go wrong, it's been seen as a failure. There is this middle ground, as in this is what it does inherently. And it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not good.
It's valueless.
I think it's valueless. And all these examples, of course, it only gets wrong when you try to masquerade it, right? When you try to say, don't look there. Then we're going to change it here, right? I mean, that's what makes it
as being right. This is the holy grail of something.
Yeah.
And if people get disappointed because it doesn't adhere to that expectation, they will.
Yeah.
Scold, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
they will scold the creators, I guess.
But if you accept that this is what it is, I mean, then it takes I'm also inclined to say the anxiousness out of it. So last week in my Friday newsletter, I was looking for a picture on Midjourney.
Yeah.
And in that picture of Midjourney, the way I figured it and the way I prompted it, it was a robot dog being walked in a park by a young woman.
Right.
Why a woman? Because I don't want men in my pictures for my newsletters, because there are already too many men in newsletters. So I tried for almost an hour in Midjourney to not get a sexualized picture.
Right, like a gender-neutral person.
Well, I mean, all the pictures I got were with very tight T-shirts with nipples poking through.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that as well. Similar with men, by the way. We're like buff guys all the time.
Yeah,
even if we say, make me fat.
Yeah, so in the beginning I thought, oh my God, Ron, what prompt did you give it? I mean, you naughty old man, right? But whatever I tried, I couldn't get a non-sexual picture.
And
in the end, nostalgia in, nostalgia out. Probably that is what the data set is.
Yeah.
Or what dominates the data set. And
of course, there's a vast cultural library of all kinds of, let's say anime and manga are like...
I was about to say that because I actually instructed it to be in the manga mold of things. And then, of course, this is what you got.
And they're all idealized figures, just like in the movies, right? Everybody looks like a movie star. Yeah. That's because they're movie stars.
Yeah. Even Willem Dafoe looks like a movie star.
Well, Willem,
even though he's no Brad Pitt.
Willem is a handsome man, I think.
I think he's amazing.
He has a great smile.
He's my role model in so many aspects.
Oh man,
it's the but in the end, right? Okay, the tool is not suited for what I was doing. It is not evil. It's not failing. No, that's not just what
it just is.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if we can get over it, this is what it is. It's useful. But sometimes it's valuable, and sometimes it's not. Get on with it.
But that's kind of like the people. I have this too with when I create things for my clients. People underestimate the value of the journey towards the end result.
Yes, absolutely.
Because most of the time they say, well, I could do without the process.
Yeah.
And I say, well, I couldn't because we created this process so we could empathize with your needs, but also with the needs of the people you want to serve or the people you want to make something for.
Yeah.
And so this process makes sure we get the maximum input and the right input of you, specifically the right input, because we don't want you to say what you want. We want to understand, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and figure out what right is.
Exactly. So understanding where you are in that, in the process is very important, because most people would say, well, this is a failed project. And I think the tendency in Europe is, or specifically in the Netherlands, is, I'm not sure why. I guess we're very nuchter. What's the English word? Sober? No, down to earth.
Down to earth.
So we think when we look at something, it is as we see it, rather than use our imagination what it could be or what it might be. And in America, there's this different culture. So if you make something in the Netherlands and you end up with something and people don't like it, it's failed, and it's also end of line. There won't be any attempts in doing it differently or doing it like another time straight away. And in America, it seems to be different because they understand the value of training, in this case, people, but I guess similar things will go for AI, is training yourself to learn how how your canvas reacts, how your tools, how you can use your tools or vary your tools to create different outcome. And so when you present something that you regard as an outcome and somebody says, I'm dissatisfied, then you continue or you reframe your start and you start all over again, because that will get you.
Yeah. I'm dissatisfied now. I don't like it now.
Exactly.
In the way it looks now.
Exactly. And similar, I see a lot of things also in the protection of people from, for example, we talked about it in a different episode, I think. So link in the show notes, hopefully.
Sure.
Because we don't know if it's published yet. So, it will be published when we publish this. Okay, it's fine.
You just revealed our process. Thank you very much. Damn it. Now they know.
This is recorded in 1984.
Well, that would explain our hairdos.
Yep. Yeah, once again, I lost my train of thought. It doesn't really matter.
Well, that ties into what you were saying about the process, right? And that the process takes time, and it is, and sometimes it pauses, and sometimes you're stuck, and then you just put things away, and you come back a week later, 2 weeks later, a year later.
Yeah, and I think that should be part of the message as well. And the protection of, let's say, the rights of people. So we have said to Mr. and Mrs. Facebook, you're doing a job. Okay, that's fine. And we're enjoying the products even. And we like being connected with other people. And we actually kind of believe what you say your mission is, connecting people in the world, blah, blah, blah. And but at a certain moment we see that the implicit cost or the cost of, let's say, privacy concerns or being sold products and services that you might not react straight away, but being conditioned in that ecosystem, you are more prone to sway towards actually transaction of buying something, and we all of a sudden we say no, this is wrong, and we have like this shutdown kind of mentality rather than persuading the other side as being, listen, this is a big problem for us. We like you to change.
Yeah.
And we don't. We say this is forbidden. And by making these laws and these regulations, I think we don't do ourselves a favor. We shut down things rather than let them progress in the right direction. We shut down our own learning process as well.
Yeah, I mean, so we shut down the process of finding out what the right direction is.
Yeah.
It's the,
and we need to dare, right? It's not an undertaking taken lightly. When you want to learn, you take a lot of risk. I think I shared this link of Kwebbelkop, this YouTube guy that basically said, I did a really long series. I produced all kinds of videos of me gaming and talking to people. And I think I want to scale up and I want to be a little bit less involved in doing the actual recording. And he said, I'm going to create an AI that does my work. And so you can look at the AI and you're basically seeing you're looking at and communicating with a facsimile of me. And so he created this thing and people were up in arms because they said, we don't like it and it sucks and you are a rich man and trying to because he is wealthy. He made a lot of money of YouTube and all kinds of, I think, Twitch as well with his game streams.
Yeah.
And he basically, people didn't understand what he actually wanted to do. Of course, his reasoning was kind of like off because he said, well, I'm wealthy and I can now finally spread my wings and scale up this lovely sentiment that I created in person. And I want to do that with multiple personalities without being involved myself. And rather than creating a network of people, he created a network of AIs. And I find that was really daring, but he really got shut down. And I'm really keen on hearing your impression of this situation. What was your takeaway?
Well, I mean, it's the. I guess I understand both sides. I mean, I totally get the scaling up thing and the scaling out thing.
Yeah.
It's the what I found the reactions of the people. So because they're not just audience.
No,
apparently they are vested in him. They invested in him, right? I mean, they spend time and attention on him, with him, for him.
There's a sense of ownership, I guess.
There is a sense of ownership.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting. And then you put up this facade, and that's not the same thing.
Yeah.
And again, this is the human aspect again, right? I mean, you can automate whatever you want, and you can generate whatever you want, and it's close enough, but it's not what this audience want.
Yeah.
You want to invest in that kind of people. I mean, recently I was asked to do some survey, and it was online video. I thought, well, it turns out I'm actually talking to a generated avatar.
Okay.
And I felt really, really deceived.
Because of they didn't communicate the premise?
I didn't probably understand the premise. They probably did, but I didn't read it because my assumption is I'm going to talk to a person. Right. And it's a topic I'm quite
adept.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a topic I have some investment in, right? So
Sure.
I want to share it. And I don't just want to be recorded and talk to a bunch of moving pixels. I mean, the bunch of moving pixels, I mean, I need to know that there is an actual person somewhere behind a camera.
So should we call you Deckard from this moment on?
Oh, fantastic. Explain that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a link to a movie. Oh man, what's the title of the movie? It's one of my favorites, actually, aesthetically. And Deckard is the main player. What's the movie now? Oh man, and there was also a new version, 2096 or something. Oh man. Okay, it's in the show notes. Trust me, and I'll get back to it because
I'll give you a hint. The book is by Philip K. Dick.
Yeah, it's like do
electric sheep dream of androids?
Exactly, yeah.
And I also forgot the name of the movie. You replicant.
Yeah. Anyway, so Deckard is the main player, and he has a very visceral hatred of the replicants.
Yeah.
And replicants, they look like real people. It's really hard to identify whether or not a person or a entity is a replicant or not.
Yeah.
And it seems to be the foundation of his hatred seems to be not only his disappointment at a certain moment that he find out that somebody or something that he thought was somebody is a replicant, but also that he fears he is one himself.
Yeah.
And I find it very fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And so perhaps that you being confronted with the animated pixels and as being a peer for you to talk to.
Yeah, I think
might feels a little bit like Deckard's behavior.
It's I mean, of course, I actually want to be Rutger Hauer in that movie. It's
of course.
Yeah, of course. But I take the role of Deckard as well. No, I think in the end, this was a transaction. This was a transactional interaction, right? I mean, it's but now it's blatantly obvious that it's a transactional. Blade Runner. Fantastic. I kept
Blade Runner.
Blade
in the
Runner.
show notes.
Obviously.
Yeah.
No, and now it's blatantly obvious that it's a transaction, right? I mean.
So you expected a.
Genuine interested in me and my opinions.
Right.
Very arrogant, I know.
An appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's also that kind of... I think that makes sense because they ask for your knowledge and therefore it should be appreciated at that moment.
But of course I can pay in kind, right? So the next time they send a bot...
You send the bot as well.
I sent the Kersheets bot, right? So the Ron bot, and it's that one can ramble as if there's no tomorrow for sure.
You can send Rutger. He will hack the heck out of it.
So, but the Blade Runner thing is actually really nice because maybe it's the imperfection that actually makes this usable. I mean, the fact that you can see. I mean, there is another great robot in another great movie, and that's the movie Alien.
Right.
Where the
first one with Sigourney Weaver. Directed by
Ridley Scott.
Right.
Who also did
the brother of Tony Scott.
Yeah. And the second one, Aliens, by James Cameron.
Yes, and
normally a second version is worse. I'm not sure if this one is worse.
Well, they're different. They're
very different.
They're different movies. I think the general consensus is the first one is a horror.
Yeah.
The second one is a thriller, and the final one is a kind of like a splatter movie. Of sorts.
Yeah. But in the first one, the synthetic, as he's called, right? The robot on board of the ship. He's asked whether. Do you admire the alien, the monster that's eating all the...
right.
And he says, I admire its purity.
That's interesting.
Maybe that purity is also scary.
Because it was a very vicious monster for the people that haven't seen the movie. If you're scarish, so it might be not for you, but it is. The monster is very purposeful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It only knows one thing: protect its own, and
designed by H.R. Giger. I have to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is a very disturbed person, or was a very disturbed person.
Yes.
But our society is better by his contributions, I think. It is very nice.
Yeah, it's disturbing. I mean, but it's one of the disturbing things.
Yeah, but it's also
you have to look at.
Aesthetically, it's very. It fits. It's almost perfect.
Yeah, it's hypnotizing.
Yeah, mesmerizing.
Mesmerizing. This is the mesmerizing episode. Yeah, so I mean, so it's going back to our previous train of thought, right? I think the imperfection, right, instead of being a bug or something to bitch about,
right.
Maybe that's great. Maybe the fact that it makes these errors, maybe that it hallucinates, sometimes widely. Sometimes widely funny, sometimes widely obnoxious. When I got my sexualized picture, I was actually rather pissed because I thought I'd go to the stool in 5 minutes. I have this great picture. I spent an hour I didn't have. Apparently, I did because I spent the hour. But in the end, it's the imperfection that makes this such a great tool or companion. I'm almost inclined to say, if this would be perfect and spot on and flawless and shiny,
it will be a utility. It will be something of a that we already have, like a microphone. It's finished.
Yeah, it's finished. It's
does
done.
What it does.
It does what it does, and if it doesn't, it's broken.
Exactly.
Right. And this. It does what it does, but not in December, and does things differently.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's lazy and you have to say, work harder. You can actually say, if you answer the question right, you get a tip. Apparently that also helps.
It works, right?
Yeah, somebody did some research on it and it makes a difference. Not really quite sure.
So somebody programmed that sensitivity to incentives. It must be.
Or maybe there is a body of knowledge on the internet where being promised and tipped and the quality of an answer are correlated.
I think so, because that's something we called the internet.
Yeah.
Which is basically built on
us.
Transactions.
Transactions.
Yeah.
A certain type of us. I need to correct myself.
Definitely, It's very much biased.
Yeah, that's
biased towards man, biased towards transaction, being very commercial.
Yeah,
very not a lot of room for arts and and exploration
and uncertainty and doubt and there's a lot of propaganda going to this book, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and I totally forgot about that. This book. Influence.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that. It's fantastic. But again, I mean, that just adds to my concern, right? I mean, and not only do the Googles and the OpenAIs and the Microsoft of this world pretend that it is perfect, and if not close to perfect, close to genius, close to superiority, they also don't disclose how it has been trained and what it has been trained on. What has been included in a data set and what hasn't. And if something is included in a data set, is it prioritized compared to something else?
Yeah.
Right? And this kind of insight also gives you a sense of the imperfectness of it all, right? The fact that Midjourney gave me these sexual manga kind of pictures. Mm-hmm. You know, if I had a slightly better understanding what it was trained on, that would have made sense instead of 1 hour of frustration and then trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
So be a bit more, I don't know, transparent. This hush-hushness
but
really
that's the big
doesn't help.
thing. I mean, and let's say, I think our entire discussion could play into different tools, right? It can be, it could be digitalization, it could be automation, but it could also be hedge clippers.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's let's say the people that called themselves they were up in arms for the weaving machines,
The Luddites.
Yeah, they didn't understand both what it was, but also not what it implies. it did it. They only understood that it might threaten their livelihood.
Yeah.
Right, and it didn't see beyond that. So what it might mean for, let's say, children labor laws and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and of course this is very the perspective of the people that invented it. But this is the memory that's been codified in our history because they basically won. The Luddites didn't win because then we would have like a very different story in our history.
Yeah, but you could also argue that they actually knew what this was and they knew what the implications were.
But I think they didn't take the time to learn, and that's kind of like what I meant.
That one is true. Yeah,
and because
I feel slightly sympathetic for the Luddites, oddly enough.
I think so too. In let's say in a time span of 20 years, I agree.
Yeah,
but beyond that,
you're totally right.
Beyond that, it's for civilization, I think it might be just a very positive development. But for those people specifically, no, of course not. That was horrible.
Yeah,
because it basically crashed like complete industries, which is very hard. And that's kind of like what we also see, that AI is seen as being competition of people. And I think that's the wrong way to look at it, because it isn't. It wasn't. It never.
No.
It never was, because we won't see AI doing things that humans do, but we'll see AI do things that humans can't,
or won't,
or whatever.
Yeah.
And but what I'm very keen on, and harkening back to the story of Kwebbelkop, the YouTuber, I think he also gave it a different aesthetic, right? He gave it kind of like the aesthetic of a person that you might also generate on the iPhone when you have like the emoji cons. I think.
Yeah, the emojis.
Yeah. So basically, yourself in a very abstract, happy.
Yeah, very happy.
Happy aesthetics.
Yeah,
very clean also, and he is a very happy-go-lucky kind of person, and I think that this expression was the ultimate expression of his personality. But people, I think, also reacted to that. Was like, no, we like the faults, we like the micro expressions of your face. So looking at you is not only it makes it easy for us to feel like family, but also makes it easy to empathize with you. And that wasn't happening anymore. It was just a dude or a robot faking it, or at least from the perspective of his community.
Yeah, and probably being interchangeable, right? Because anyone can make an emoji-like thing.
But I like that aesthetic very much. I think it's specifically when it goes wrong, because I'm really waiting on, let's say, real artists making real paintings with people with 7 fingers, for example.
Oh yeah, totally.
At first as a protest, right? As being punk and trying to hack the system, and perhaps also people trying to use AI to strengthen the signal of making mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
Right, making 2-headed monsters as being news hosts or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to that. To me, that also kind of harkens back to the space age. All of a sudden, you saw all kinds of cars with similar dynamics and similar to aerodynamics. Like planes,
big fins and exhausts that look like jet engines and that kind of stuff.
It had no function whatsoever in being an aerodynamic car. I would almost say the opposite.
Yeah,
but it was. People aspire to this very aesthetic, and I'm not sure if this also goes for AI, but I wouldn't go past it. I think we might just go in an era of, let's say, films or even live media productions that might lean into that aesthetic rather than swaying away from it and going to perfection.
Yeah, people with 7 fingers, people walking over a puddle, and a puddle ain't moving.
Yeah, kind of makes me think of Max Headroom. That was a short-lived series on MTV, I think. Okay, we're aging ourselves.
Very.
People. Oh man,
it's the 80s.
I think so, yeah.
It's the 80s.
And so Max Headroom is it was a virtual person locked into a computer screen, and he had glitches. So he would like repeat himself, self, and it was really interesting because how he was portrayed, because there was an actor playing him, and it was just edited very smartly to make it seem that he was a robot. And I think that's kind of like the aesthetic that I'm looking for. So people leaning into like the faults that we see, and kind of like, how can we incorporate this into how we look at like the future, or how we look at, let's say, the past even. It's to me it's very delightful. A period of time that I look forward to.
Never thought about it like that. But yeah, I mean, we shape the tool and the tool shapes us, right? And it's the...
Definitely, yeah. And it might also lead to rebellion. I mean, I'm saying in something that people might reminisce to, like, oh, that was wonderful. I really liked that period of time, or that was kind of quirky, and how can we make that quirkiness back? But it can also be a negative sentiment. You know, like all the, what was it? We had a period of time where movies were about a virus gone rogue.
Yeah.
That was like the expression of the general fear on how nature could escalate very, very quickly and basically downtrod people in a general sense. Not a village, no, everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, it's the same with Terminator. Terminator is also very bleak and a bleak view of the future, or a possible future. Yeah. And I like that. I like people like fantasizing with those thoughts. So how could this escalate? But also, how might this be very lovely in the future? And how does it look like? Will we go back to people with an even amount of fingers? I don't know.
Me neither.
So I'm trying to looking at the time, but I'm not sure. We're almost at an hour.
No, this can't be true.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, this is the case almost every time. It's like, we just talked an hour, and Ron doesn't believe it.
It feels literally like 15 minutes. It's the.
So is there something we should talk about? I think we got a couple of ideas that we wanted to talk about. So I just wanted to finish because I really want to mention it. There's this wonderful video, and it's a study of the works of Prince.
Yes.
And not everybody is fan of Prince. I like his work in general, but I specifically like how he works. And this is talking about why he has why artists like the way he works. And it kind of leans into work ethic. And the one thing, and this also goes to the combination of being an artist and being an artisan.
Yeah.
And he said he had an idea of how things should be. And the only way to reach that point was to make music, make lots of music.
Yeah.
And I think there are stories about his vault being like bulging out of all the works that he hasn't published yet.
Yeah.
And now never will probably, because he was very prolific, right? And I really like that sentiment. I really like that ethics because there are works that he made and that are in the vault that he said this shouldn't be published right now or ever.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit the album that he was making, or the narrative that he was creating around his persona. And I like that so much, because that work wasn't failed. It wasn't a failure. It was a building block to progress his own work, to be a better artisan. So he was creating nonstop, without any apologies. He was just, I couldn't.
I mean, again, right? It's tasteful ideas and skillful action. I love the taste and skill.
Yeah, and he is a remarkable artist. That goes without saying. He had a true vision on the things that he wants to make. And I think lots of things also resonated with the populace.
Yeah, and so a very strong understanding of what right is, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's the and you can shape your interpretation of right. That's the aesthetic. That's the vision.
Yeah.
That's the taste in the end.
And to get this back to this particular podcast, I mean, I know we are flawed. I know we have a very dodgy start in Dutch, the charcoal Dutch.
Oh, fantastic!
And I know this is flawed in many, many ways. I've found out there's a resonance here, which makes it sound a little bit worse than I wanted to. But the only thing to progress is to do this, have this conversation, to get to know each other, to be a little bit better each and every time. And that's the only way, for me at least.
And be a bit different each and every time, right? So
definitely,
I mean,
yeah.
That's why I keep making...
Change the lights.
But that's why I keep making that point. This is unscripted, right? I mean, because if you unscripted before, there's a template, there's an understanding what the right is. Let's find out.
Yes, this template will create through time. That's the only way.
It will be a tacit template. I mean, we will get to a template at some point in time.
Yeah, and then we get really fed up with it.
Then we get bored. Oh yeah, totally. And then
and probably record something in an airplane or something. Hopefully, I don't know.
On an airbed on the North Sea or something.
That will be quite lovely. So, and once again, I like the sentiment of him, and I think the term that they used with Prince was he had a vault mentality. He was basically saying, and this is unique amongst his peers, he created the vault not because he wanted to save everything, but he created the vault because it needed to be filled.
Yeah.
The action was filling that void and creating something that he can build upon. And in the meantime, his co-creators were, from some perspective, victims of that process.
Yeah.
But most of the people that stuck around really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. And nowadays your co-creator can be an AI, but it's your vault and you are doing the filling.
Yes, and hopefully also that AI might also learn from us, because that's kind of like the thing that your coding buddy and Kwebbelkop didn't have, is that the AI learned back from the reaction of people. And because the script, I'm guessing the scripts from Kwebbelkop were written, and he basically was writing like very defensive lines, as in, I know this is it, but this is the future, and blah, blah, blah. And he was very defensive about it. Mm-hmm. But I wonder what an AI might say if it could hear what the reactions were in the videos. I don't know. So we like your opinions as well.
For sure.
If you got ideas on how we can improve this, you can email us.
Totally.
At ideas@itsjustamodel.com.
And we're going to even read it.
We're definitely going to read it. We listened to ourselves a few times. And we definitely also listen to you. And so if you want to get into the podcast, I think we'll read something. Hopefully it's not obscene or some way harmful. Please don't.
Kind of hope it is obscene.
Oh, yeah. Try us. And I guess that's it.
That's it.
I hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
For sure, Pete. It's a guilty pleasure. Every time again.
Okay. See you next time, guys. Ciao, ciao.
Oké. Stop. Oh, die was leuk.